Welcome to the National Partnership for Student Success Support Hubs, Supporting Students Beyond the School Day webinar. We're focused here today on talking about the results from the Afterschool Alliance Provider Survey on high impact student supports. My name is Kate Cochran. I'm Managing Director of the National Partnership for Student Success Support Hub at the Johns Hopkins Everyone Graduate Center. And I'm joined here today by my collaborator, Nikki Yamashiro, who is Director of Research at the Afterschool Alliance. Today, we're excited to start off with a little bit of an overview of the survey that we're going to be talking about. I'll share some background information on the National Partnership for Student Success and the work that we do. We'll share some information, Nikki will share some information about the survey mechanics and the broader survey beyond the questions that we asked at the National Partnership for Student Success. I'll dive into some of the key findings, and then we'll close with some information on how to get involved and to learn more through the resources that the National Partnership for Student Success has to offer. So the National Partnership for Student Success is a public-private partnership between AmeriCorps, the U.S. Department of Education, and the Johns Hopkins Everyone Graduate Center, where I'm based. And we are focused on a big goal set by the Biden-Harris administration to place an additional 250,000 people into high-impact, evidence-based roles supporting children and youth around the country, both in schools and during out-of-school time. Well, we know there are many roles that can be high impact. We are in particular focused on 5 roles where there's a very robust set of research behind them. Those roles are high-impact tutoring, mentoring, student success coaching, post-secondary transition coaching, and wraparound or integrated student supports. And we really do a lot of work to bring together people across the fields of education, youth development, and national service to find commonalities, and where many different folks are already working toward common goals and encouraging people to collaborate. And so specifically my work at the National Partnership for Student Success Support Hub within this broader partnership is to work to increase the number of people who are ready to serve in those 5 roles that I mentioned: tutoring, mentoring, etc. So we're really focused on thinking about what large groups of people might be both well situated and motivated to go into these roles if provided the right training, ongoing support, and the right opportunities. So for example, encouraging more older adults and retirees to enter these roles, college students, people who are already working for large youth development organizations, high school seniors, etc. We also provide technical assistance through 6 technical assistance partners to state and local efforts to implement or improve supports across those 5 roles that I mentioned. We established a set of voluntary quality standards outlining what quality looks like in each of those 5 roles. And we also publish other resources on an ongoing basis to support districts, nonprofit organizations, and others with implementation. We do a lot of work to connect and convene schools, districts, nonprofits, AmeriCorps programs, intermediaries, colleges, universities, and other state and local government with each other around this work. And in collaboration with the U.S. Department of Education and AmeriCorps, we set the strategic direction of the National Partnership for Student Success Initiative. So as part of this work, it's really important for us at a national level to understand the extent to which people are providing these evidence-based supports, both in schools and during out-of-school time. Last year, we collaborated with the RAND Corporation to do a nationally representative survey of school principals to understand what the state of these roles were and are during the school day. But there was a gap in the data that we were able to collect through that survey. We know that many of these supports take place during the school day, but many of them also take place during out-of-school time. And I think more importantly, as it relates to that data, in buildings and other community-based settings that are not connected to schools. So as part of, so this was a challenge for us at the National Partnership for Student Success Hub, that we really wanted to understand the extent to which out-of-school time providers, in particular those who may not be connected to school buildings, how they're increasing their capacity to provide students with evidence-based and people-powered relationship-based student supports. And again, we're specifically, well, we know that out-of-school time providers provide a lot of relationship-based and evidence-based supports. We're specifically looking at tutoring, mentoring, success coaching, post-secondary transition coaching, and wraparound services that connect students and families to a range of resources in their communities. And so, another challenge that we encountered that I know many folks in the field of youth development encounter is that there was we're not able to find a national data source that was comprehensive on the number of out-of-school time providers that exist around the country, let alone one that collects timely information on the number of adults providing these supports in out-of-school time settings or in non-school settings. So as a solution to these challenges, we at the NPSS Support Hub collaborated with the Afterschool Alliance to add 6 questions to their Wave 10 provider tracking survey, which was fielded by Edge Research through Afterschool Alliance in December of 2023. This is a survey that Nikki will go into more details about the survey shortly, but this survey, while it didn't go to a nationally representative sample of out-of-school time providers, it was shared with tens of thousands of individuals and provides some really great and interesting insights into the state of NPSS-aligned student supports that are being offered during out-of-school time. Some connected to the school buildings, some not. So very excited to share more here. And with that, I will pass it over to Nikki Yamashiro from the Afterschool Alliance.
Hi everyone, thanks so much, Kate. Yeah, really happy to be here with you all. As Kate said, I'm Nikki Yamashiro. I'm on the research team at the Afterschool Alliance. And I guess I want to first start out with just how grateful we are for this partnership with NPSS and just really glad that we were able to work together on this program provider survey. I think that these additional questions from NPSS, we were able to really grow what we know about the types of supports and all of the help that's happening in our after school and summer programs. And then before I jump into more of what we found broadly from the Wave 10 program provider survey, I wanted to start, and it's on the next slide, this one stat. So 82%, and that's the percentage of time that research out of the Learning and Informal and Formal Environment Center, so the Life Center, they found that kids in K through 12 spend in informal learning environments. So thinking about being at home, in clubs, and also in after school and summer learning programs. So it's a huge number, right? It's this huge amount of time. It's a significant amount of time that just holds this enormous amount of potential for young people's growth and development. And that's why we at the Afterschool Alliance, on the next slide, we're doing the work to make sure that all young people, regardless of where they live or their socioeconomic situation, that they're able to take part in affordable, quality after school and summer learning programs. And we do that through our policy work, our research, our field building, communications. We have a network of more than 25,000 program providers who got this survey. We work closely with the statewide after school networks. There's one in every single state. And so if you don't know your state network, please message me directly and I'm happy to help connect you. We work with after school ambassadors who are really leaders at the local level who are helping raise awareness about the importance of after school and summer. So you can really see how we're taking both this grass tops and grassroots approach to helping increase access to after school and summer programs. And as a part of this work, on the next slide, you can see how we've been conducting this tracking survey, right, which we essentially see as a pulse survey of the field. We started in response to COVID, so back in 2020, to really learn about the operational status of programs, right? It's thinking about back at the beginning, there were school closures, government stay-at-home orders, because we really wanted to find out how programs were pivoting, right? Their services during that time. But because of all of the really valuable information we were able to gather from those surveys, we've continued to field them, and we've been updating the focus of surveys to explore more deeply topics that have become more relevant to the field. So digging into things like staffing, around new investments in after school and summer programs through pandemic relief funds. But through the surveys, what we consistently ask about is the operational status of programs, the types of supports that they're providing for young people and their families, concerns that are top of mind for program providers, the challenges that they're facing themselves, and the resources that they want that can help them better provide their services. So I'm going to take you through a few of the key findings of the survey, but I'm really going to save those student success findings for Kate's portion of the webinar. And right, you can see here from the fall 2023 survey is that programs are really just providing this really wide range of supports for their kids. With most, they're providing academic enrichment, time for their students to connect with their peers, time outdoors, STEM learning opportunities, and more. And on the next slide, we group some of these activities and supports in a different way, right? Just to see the holistic nature of the supports of after-school programs. It's not only providing those academics, but it's a place where kids can go to get a healthy snack or meal. It's providing them opportunities to connect with their peers. It's supporting their overall well-being. And on the next slide, what we also ask is that of providers is concerns when it comes to their students. So, right, you can see that programs are really providing those supports that align to the concerns that they have. So, right, on the right-hand side, you can see that more than half of providers are at least very concerned that their students are experiencing learning loss. On the left side, you can see that most are providing that academic enrichment, homework help, time for STEM and reading and writing. Another big concern for providers is their students' well-being. And we can see high levels of providers not only helping their kids stay active, but they're providing time to be outside, helping them build life skills, think about teamwork, critical thinking skills, time to talk with peers or staff about their feelings and emotions. And on the next slide, it's a lot. Sorry, but really the purpose of the slide was really to show that when we look across the waves of the survey, when we asked about activities and supports, you can see that even during the pandemic, most programs were providing these holistic sets of supports for their kids. But I also wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the challenges. Yeah, programs are providing, right, because it speaks directly to their ability to serve the kids and families. So on the slide, we found that 81% of providers that said that they were concerned about staffing. A majority said that they were extremely or very concerned. And on the next slide, you can see that since the summer of 2021, staffing has been at the top of the list of concerns. Some of the things got cut off, but we can, when we send the slide deck, you can see the rest. But the top two are the most important. So the second is that programs are concerned about sustainability. So long-term funding and future, nearly 3 in 4 providers said that they're concerned. And one of the reasons, right, this isn't surprising is really because of that relationship that exists between the two of those things, which you can see on the next slide. So we also asked programs about their cost per child per week, and if they've increased in the last 12 months. In the fall survey, almost half, so 49% of providers said that their costs had gone up. And when we asked that subset of respondents about the reasons for that increase, you can see that the most common answer choice by far was staffing costs. So really that's what was driving that increase and reinforces the relationship between those 2 points. We also asked about what resources would be most helpful for program providers, advice on staff burnout and keeping teams engaged, and then advice on funding streams and securing foundation funds are on top, right? So just really mirroring what programs said were of most concern to them. And then on the next slide, one of the ways that we found programs have been able to support their programming and staffing efforts is through funding streams like pandemic relief funding. And although only 18% of programs said that they've gotten pandemic relief funds, those that have, you can see that they've been able to put it towards expanding offerings, hiring more staff, supporting staff recruitment efforts, and more. And the benefit of this added support, it shows up on the next slide to some of the questions we asked around addressing programs' biggest challenges like staffing. So for this slide, what we're comparing programs that received pandemic relief funds to those that didn't, looking at the question of what steps programs took to address their staffing issues. And what you can see is that, right, those with those pandemic relief funds, they're just more likely to have been able to do things like increase salaries, provide more professional development opportunities for their staff, provide benefits to their staff. And then on the flip side, programs with pandemic relief funds are also slightly less likely to say that they just haven't done anything at all to address the staffing challenges that they had. But we asked programs with this pandemic relief funds kind of what's next, what's going to happen when this funding stream ends. And unfortunately, most of them said that they're going to have to make changes, like reducing their programming, the number of staff that they can support and the benefits they provide, the number of students they serve, and their hours of operation. But I wanted to put in a side note here too. One positive trend that we've been seeing on the policy front is an increase in state level funding for after school and summer, which really is helping to in part address this upcoming fiscal funding cliff that's coming. And then I wanted to end on a more positive note. We also asked providers about their thoughts about the future. You can see that most are optimistic. 72% said that they were somewhat or strongly optimistic about the future of their program. And then on my last slide, we have a QR code and a link to the full report that the Afterschool Alliance released earlier this year, and has the findings that I walk through if you wanted to learn more. And of course, I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. But with that, I can turn it back over to Kate.
Thank you so much, Nikki. Very excited to hear about the broader survey. And I know that a huge amount of work has gone into this, and very excited to learn more about the state of out-of-school time supports. If you have questions for Nikki, or if you have questions as I'm going through the rest of the slides, I encourage you to add them to the Q&A portion or the Q&A feature in Zoom. And we should have some time at the end to get to questions. And if we don't have time, or if we don't yet have responses to those questions, we can include them in our follow-up email that we'll send following this webinar, along with the slides and a recording of the webinar. So thank you again, Nikki, not only for your partnership, but for sharing with us on this webinar today. So building upon what Nikki shared about the broader survey, I would love to dive in to some findings that we have that are specific to 6 questions that the National Partnership for Student Success Hub added or collaborated with the Afterschool Alliance on to add to this broader provider survey. And these questions were really focused on tutoring, mentoring, success coaching, post-secondary transition coaching, and wraparound or integrated student supports, since our goal is to really understand the extent to which these supports are being offered and the extent to which students are receiving these supports around the country. So some key findings, and you should see the link to the full report and an accompanying data visualization in the chat, so you can see the full thing. But some key findings are that of out-of-school time providers who responded to the survey, 62% of them reported offering one or more of the NPSS aligned student supports. So one or more of those 5 roles, which is really exciting and really validates what we know about the extent or about these supports taking place, not just during school, but beyond the school day in after school and summer programming as well. 47% of providers who responded to the survey reported that they offer mentoring. 30% reported offering wraparound services that connect students and their families with a range of community resources. 21% reported offering college and career advising or post-secondary transition coaching, but this increased understandably to 31% among providers who were serving middle school youth and 53% among providers serving high school aged youth, which is pretty exciting to see. More than half of out of school time providers serving high schoolers are providing college and career advising or post-secondary transition coaching. 20% of providers that responded to the survey reported offering student success coaching, and 19% reported offering high intensity tutoring. The survey results indicate significant growth in the number of adults providing these supports in out-of-school time programs during the 2023-24 school year when compared to the previous school year. So more adults providing these services in 2023-24 when compared to 2022-23, which is exciting. So specifically, I'm going to go through and share what this looked like when it comes to each of our NPSS focus areas or focus roles. And again, I'm not going to read everything on these slides. I encourage you to check out the report, but we'll talk through each one. So for mentors, close to half of providers that responded to the survey reported that they offered mentoring during out-of-school time, which is exciting. Among providers that offered mentoring services, about half of them were able to maintain similar levels of staffing and students served when compared to the prior school year, so when compared to 2022-23. And about a third were actually not only able to maintain, but able to increase the number of staff who provided or coordinated these services by an average of about 7 adults, which is really, really exciting. This is an average. I do want to note that a limitation here is that providers, it's a broad range of provider sizes responding to this survey. So this doesn't mean everybody was adding 7 adults. This is an average, but we really do think this is a promising number. And also about a third of providers were able to increase the number of students served, which is crucial. When it comes to wraparound supports that connect students and families with a range of resources in their communities, 30% of providers that responded to the survey indicated they provided these services. And similar to mentoring, about half were able to maintain similar levels of services to the prior year. And over a third were able to increase both the number of staff providing or coordinating these supports by an average of about 3 staff, and the number of students served. When it comes to college and career coaches or post-secondary transition coaches, as I just mentioned, about 21% of providers across the board provide these supports, and that number increases to more than half of providers when we look at just the providers serving high school students, which makes sense, closer to preparing for college and career. Again, similar to mentoring and wraparound supports, about half maintain the same levels of staffing and student support when compared to the prior school year in these specific roles. And about a third were able to increase the number of people in these roles or people coordinating this type of service. And student success coaching, about 20% of the providers responding to the survey indicated that they provide this service. And of those who do provide it, 44% reported serving about the same number of students when compared to the previous school year, and 37% reported increasing the number of students served. Slightly higher percentages reported serving fewer students when compared to other roles. And we see similar numbers when it comes to the change in the number of adults providing or coordinating student success coaching, which makes sense. When it comes to high intensity tutors, 19% of providers who responded to the survey reported offering high intensity tutoring in their programs, and about 82% combined providers were able to either maintain service levels of tutoring from the prior school year or increase the number of students served. And 50% of providers that offered tutoring were able to maintain tutoring staffing levels consistent with the prior year, and 34% were able to bring on more people providing these supports. And you'll see that similar to success coaching, we saw a slightly higher percentage of providers who offered this having less adults providing the services or less students served, though a net gain, which is good. The survey results indicate significant demand for these types of evidence-based student supports during out-of-school time among those that offer them. Among providers that responded to the survey and reported offering one or more of the NPSS supports, 37% reported that more students sought these supports in the fall of 2023 than they had staff to effectively provide these services. So I think this really aligns with the broader findings of the survey that while progress is taking place, staffing does remain a challenge during out of school time. And in order to really fully meet the student demand for these supports during out of school time, additional staffing and support to get that staffing is needed. I also want to note that unmet demand was highest when programs serve primarily students of color, when programs serve primarily students eligible for free or reduced price lunch, and also among programs that serve primarily served high school students. Another interesting finding is that the survey results indicate that government funding may have played a key role in providers' abilities to provide NPSS Alliance supports. Providers with COVID relief funding, 21st Century Community Learning Center funding, AmeriCorps funding, and state government funds were more likely to report that they offered one of these supports, so tutoring, mentoring, success coaching, et cetera, than those who didn't have this funding, indicating that this may have played a key role for providers. So again, I encourage you to check out the full report to learn more about our findings from the survey. We also have an accompanying data visualization that dives a little bit deeper on some of the particular data points, and then also encourage you to check out the report of the broader findings, or the findings of the broader survey that Nikki shared. We'll add all of these to the chat. So next, if you're interested in collaborating with others in the field of education, youth development, and/or national service, AmeriCorps, to recruit, train, support, and develop people who are working in tutoring, mentoring, or similar roles, I encourage you to join our coalition at the National Partnership for Student Success as a supporting champion. We understand that staffing remains a challenge, and our goal is to work at a national level to bring more people into these types of evidence-based roles, both in schools and out of schools, or during out of school time, to support the field. So encourage you to join us if this is something that you're interested in. This opportunity is open to nonprofits, schools, districts, intermediaries, state or local government, and others who are working toward this goal in their own communities or nationally. And we also have a coalition that is specifically for colleges and universities who are placing college students in these roles in schools or with youth-serving nonprofit organizations. There's no fee to join, and it's a quick application. You will see the link in the chat. We also provide no-cost technical assistance, as I mentioned before, through national experts. This comes at no cost to nonprofit organizations, intermediaries, or state or local government entities. So if you are working to expand, implement, improve programs that offer any of these 5 supports that I've been talking about, encourage you to apply for technical assistance if you need support. And that technical assistance ranges from consultation about a particular problem of practice to sharing resources about training or quality improvement or professional development to matching support. If you're looking for a higher education partner, you are looking for a district partner, a nonprofit partner in your community or your region, we support with that. And finally, I want to share, and we will share all of these in the chat, some of our additional resources from the National Partnership for Student Success Support Hub that I think may be relevant to folks joining this webinar based on who we saw in the registration. And with that, I'm really excited to see folks on this webinar today, and want to thank our collaborators at the Afterschool Alliance for collaborating on this survey. This is something that we know anecdotally a lot of this work is taking place during out of school time, and really are excited to see that in this data as well. And I also want to thank Nikki for joining today and sharing information about the broader survey. We will be sharing out a link with the webinar recording and the slides directly following this webinar. Thank you so much.